something a little different. I am going to be making a mold, or attempting to make a mold. I have never made a mold before, so we'll see how this goes. I shouldn't say I've never made one before. I've made a couple unsuccessfully for various reasons. So hopefully I've learned from my trial and error, and maybe this time I will be successful. So this is the piece that I'm going to be making a mold of. It's cut from 1/4" acrylic, and I have some plastic down that's going to be like the base of my working surface. And what I'm going to do is I have some Sculpey here, just some original Sculpey, and I think really any Sculpey would probably work for this. I'm just using Sculpey because it doesn't get hard. It just stays soft. And I like to use Sculpey to create forms that I pour resin into. Instead of using a mold, I'll use Sculpey to create kind of more like a more organic shape. You've seen a lot of people probably do that with silicone, where they squirt silicone out and use that to make like a coaster mold or something. I actually do that with Sculpey because resin won't stick to it, and it's really easy to clean up. So, and you can reuse it. That's the cool thing about it. This is a new pack I'm opening, but the pack that I've been using, I don't even know how many times I reused it. You can reuse it over and over and over again, which makes it really super handy. Let me get in here. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I have a piece of plastic down because the silicone, when I pour it on here, it's not going to stick to plastic. It will stick to other silicone. And I'm sure there's other surfaces that it will stick to, but it does not stick to plastic. So that's why I have plastic down, and acrylic is plastic, so it won't stick to that. I suppose I haven't tried using resin as a base. I suppose if you have like a resin tray or something that you've made that, you know, you just have hanging around, maybe you could try using that as your base. Whatever your base is, it needs to be flat. Now, some of the silicone is going to seep underneath this, and that won't really be a big deal. You can just trim it off after you demold. I'm trying to think of some other things that I have learned. I have seen people use clay as their base. They'll actually put a flat piece of clay down, like roll it out with a rolling pin, and then they'll set their piece on the clay and press it in just a little bit, and that keeps the silicone from seeping underneath. You could try that, and I'll probably try that in one of my future attempts. But for now, I'm just gonna try this. We'll see how much seeps underneath. So I just kind of play with my clay until I get, I don't know, it's maybe 1 inch thick. Just trying to think, like, how deep do I want to pour the silicone? So I'm just gonna form these kind of like these ropes. All right, so I made it a little thinner. It's maybe, well, it's probably a little bigger than 1/2 inch. And then I always flatten the ends so that when you put the next piece on, it's got a nice flat side to stick to. And then I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna kind of follow the shape of the horse. And I'm just doing that so I'm gonna minimize how much silicone I have to use. Because the further away from the horse I am, the more silicone I will be using. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward through this part because you don't wanna see me doing every step of this. And I'll catch up with you on the other side. Okay, so I have the outer ring done. What I'm going to do next is go around on the inside and smooth together the joints where I have different pieces of clay that meet. So I need to take this out. I'm just gonna set that aside. I'm gonna put that over here. And then I'm just gonna take my pinky finger and just kind of slide it where this little seam is. Just back and forth. And the Sculpey is really good. It'll just kind of blend itself together. And I'm gonna do that over here. I'm gonna have to turn this a little bit. Hopefully not going out of frame. And you can get little clay tools that you can do this with. You could use anything that's got kind of a slightly curved edge to it. Small spoon would work. Actually, I'm gonna try that. These little spoons, let's see if that can get in there. Yeah, that works pretty good. I find that the heat from your finger does seem to help the Sculpey move a little bit better, at least to start with. Okay, so now all the seams are nice and blended. Get this one a little better. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of pinch, and as I'm pinching, I'm pushing down because I really wanna make this seam or seal with the plastic surface. I wanna make it as tight as possible. And I'm pinching it because that's making the edge a little bit taller and not as round. You know, when I first rolled it out, it was round. And now as I'm pinching it, it's getting a little bit more, I guess, vertical shaped. Don't know what the scientific names are for these things. Okay. Now, let me bring you down so you can see what I'm looking at here. So there's a little gap because I used a round piece of clay. The bottom of the clay is rounded. So obviously there's going to be a gap under there. Now I'm just using this mold for my own personal use. I'm not selling it, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm still going to go around and seal that off. Just as an extra precaution against any sort of leakage. I don't want the silicone to find even the teeniest way out. So I'm going to do the same thing with my finger, and this time I'm just going to go all the way around, and I'm just going to kind of drag, and that's just going to push the clay down against the plastic. Okay, bring it down again. Sorry for the shadow. But now you can see I've got the clay butted up against the plastic nice and tight. Okay, so now the next thing that I want to do is add a bit of clay just in this spot here and a little bit here. Again, just to minimize the amount of silicone that I'm using. Okay, so for this spot, I want to shape it. It looks like a little bit kind of triangle shaped. That'll work. I'll just attach it to the other clay. And then same thing, this is maybe like a little square. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna take this out so I can Get these nice and blended to each other. Okay, so I'm just gonna press it down one more time, just because I might have lifted it inadvertently with my new activity. All right. Now, where'd my little horse go? Okay, put the horse back. Just kind of doing another check just to make sure everything is where it needs to be. All right, so this little triangle, I don't know if it kind of moved a little when I was shaping it or what, but I'm just gonna tip the end a little bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. That is gonna work. So now I need to go wash my hands because I have all this residue from the clay all over my hands. And then we need to clean off the acrylic. So I'll be right back. Okay, hands are nice and clean. So I'm just gonna use a paper towel and some Windex for the first clean. And you really only need to make sure your top side is clean. The bottom doesn't matter because you're not molding the bottom, you're molding the top. So if you're using acrylic, or really, I guess anything that can get fingerprints on it, you want to make sure to get your fingerprints off because the silicone will mold the fingerprints. So your final mold will actually have your fingerprints on the piece. So I have a lot of fingerprints on the bottom too. I'm not really worrying about those. I'm just focusing on the top. Getting the bulk of everything off. All right, so now I'm gonna set it back down. Being careful not to touch the clay. Okay. So now there are still some fingerprints because I keep touching it. All right, so now I'm gonna use this little microfiber cloth and I'm gonna keep a hold of it with a paper towel on my hand. And I'm just gonna do kind of like a little buffing. I'm just gonna go around and I'm making sure I have the light at a good angle so I can see the surface of the acrylic and see if I'm missing any fingerprints or any little dust specks or anything, because that is all gonna show up in your mold if it's on your piece. Anything else? Okay, so now I'm gonna mix up my silicone. So I'm using, it is the Dragon Skin 20 silicone rubber, and it's a 1-to-1 mixture by weight or volume. So you can use either. If you have a scale, you can put on a scale, or you can use cups to measure. It says on here that the pot life is about 25 minutes and it cures in 4 hours. So I have a little bit of time to mix before we have to pour it, but definitely not as much time as most resin. So I'm just going to use 2 little cups here. I don't know how much resin this is going to take. I'm looking at it and in my head, I'm kind of comparing it to like coaster molds. So if I would divide this in half, this is about the size of a coaster mold on each side. And most of my coasters are 3 ounces, but this is a lot deeper. You know, coasters are about 1/4 inch. So to be safe, I think I'm going to mix up, if I do 4 ounces on each, I think I'm going to mix up 9 ounces just to be on the safe side. I don't think it's going to use that much, but I have been wrong before. So I'm going to put 4.5 ounces in each cup of each one of these. And it does say to stir well before using. So let's see. I need to get a stir stick. Let me zoom out so you guys can see what's going on here. had to go get some of my longer sticks. Ooh, this is thick. Okay, so I'm gonna pour 4.5 ounces. So I don't know why. I keep thinking my fingers are sticky, but they're not. The bottles are sticky. Like every time I grab the bottle, my hand sticks to it. So I don't know if there's something on these bottles. Very weird. Oh, it seems like if my hand is wet, it sticks to the bottle. That is so weird. I don't know what kind of label is on these, that if you have a wet fingers will stick to the label. Very strange. All right, and then 4.5 ounces in this one. Okay, now I have my bigger container here. I'm gonna pour these guys into here. This is a really big container. I don't think I have a smaller container though. Oh well. I only have, these cups are 8-ounce cups. I don't have anything that's gonna hold 9 ounces that I can mix in. This is so much stickier than resin. Oh my gosh. This is very, very different. The other silicone that I used was not this sticky. But it also, I don't remember what kind it was, but it was very, very hard after it cured. And that project didn't work anyways, but. All right, so let's get this mixed. I'm so glad resin is not this sticky. This is worse than pouring honey. And I have no idea if this can be cleaned. I guess I'll just see after it dries if I can peel it out. All right. Just gonna try and see if I can help some of the bubbles. All right, well, it says it takes about 4 hours to completely cure. So I will be back in 4 hours and we will demold this and see what I created, if it's worth keeping or not. So I'll see you in a little while. Okay, it's been, a little over 5 hours actually. And it feels cured. So let's see what I got here. All right, so you can see a little bit of the silicone went under like I thought it would. All right, so let's get the clay off here. Just comes right off, so easy. All right, and then let's pull the horse out. I'm gonna be real careful, I don't wanna tear anything. Especially around the mane, there's a lot of little sharp points on the model. So I'm going to use my little razor blade here because it looks like the silicone completely covered the leg. And I don't want to risk tearing the mold or breaking my little acrylic piece. Okay, horse came out, and this looks like in a perfect mold. It's nice and shiny. I do see a couple, actually, a couple little spots. I don't know if those were fingerprints or maybe from me just now touching it. I'm gonna have to go through and do a little bit of trimming around here, just get rid of some of this excess. It's a little bit of overflow, but I'm super happy with this. I don't see any bubbles. I was a little worried about you know, the bubbles in the silicone. So I guess we'll see once I pour this with some resin. I guess that'll be the true test to see how this did. So stay tuned for an upcoming video where I will test this out. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you found this helpful or enjoyable, please do subscribe, and I will see you next time.